Hello friends, welcome back another episode of Jumana novel. So like and share and join the video. Under the veil of the dark night, the three, Jumana, Taj, and Ayoub, began to move from their position. They were sneaking cautiously, trying not to be discovered. With great effort, patience, and a bit of luck, they advanced deeper into the land until they reached an area where the nests of the phoenixes were settled. The weather was extremely cold, and snowflakes were falling on them. Although most of the phoenix birds had not yet returned to their nests, the place seemed frightening and extremely dangerous to them. Suddenly, Jumana thought of a question that, despite its importance, no one had asked. How are we going to get the tears? Ayoub responded, "You're right. Even if we capture a phoenix, how are we going to force it to produce tears for us?" The solution came from Taj, who said, "The mother phoenix." Jumana asked, "What about her?" "Through her, we will get the tears." "How?" Taj fell silent and looked at Ayoub with a mischievous smile, as if challenging him to figure out the answer. Ayoub accepted the challenge and spoke, "We break the mother phoenix's eggs, and she will cry for them, and we can collect the tears." In a natural reaction, Jumana shouted angrily, "Impossible!" Taj, trying to calm her down, whispered, "Lower your voice so our plan isn't discovered, or they'll crush our heads, and no one will cry for you." Jumana whispered softly, "Impossible. We won't break the eggs of a poor mother." Taj reached into her bag, pulled out a small glass vial, and handed it to her daughter, saying, "Take this, my daughter. Go to one of the phoenix birds and tell her, 'Auntie, my mother sends her regards and asks you to give her some of your tears.'" Jumana replied bitterly, "Don't mock me, mother. Your weak heart will lead us to ruin." "I said no. I mean no. My daughter, there's no shop here where you can buy tears. It's either this way or we'll never get them. There must be another way." "All right, we won't break all the eggs. We'll only break one." Jumana fell silent, and her silence meant agreement. The nests were numerous, and it was difficult for them to move from one to another in search of the nest with the eggs, which made Ayoub wonder, which one should we choose? Taj, relying on the stories and information she knew about the area, said, "This place is extremely cold, and the severe cold prevents the phoenix chicks from hatching from the eggs, so the mothers light fires near their nests." Indeed, when they arrived, Ayoub had noticed some nests with fires burning nearby. He had no logical explanation for this strange behavior at the time, but now he understood the reason. All the nests were close to each other except for one that was situated in a slightly distant area, with a fire burning near it. Taj pointed to it and said, "That one. If our plan is discovered, we'll have a better chance of escaping." The three of them sneaked towards it. The nest was large, not as it appeared when viewed from afar. Ayoub climbed it, and when he was inside, he announced what he found. "There is only one egg." Jumana said, "Leave it. We'll go to another nest." Taj objected, "We don't have enough time for that. The birds will return any moment now." Then, she gave her order as the leader. "Break it. Break it now." Ayoub unsheathed his sword and was about to crack the egg's shell, but Jumana stopped him. "Wait, why don't we hide it?" Taj, angrily, "And when the mother returns, we surprise her with it. She will cry from sadness, and we will collect her tears. Isn't that the plan?" "Understand my idea first, mother. We don't have time for ideas. We didn't come here to play." "Break it. I'll scream and expose your plan if you break it. We're one team, you fool." "As long as we're one team, listen to my idea." Taj, desperate with her daughter, said, "Sometimes I wonder what kind of shoes we'll find if we open your head, Jumana. Speak quickly and relieve us. We'll hide the egg. If the mother comes and doesn't find her egg, she'll cry for it, and we can get the tears. Then, we'll return the egg and leave. That way, no one gets hurt." Taj fell silent, thinking it over. When she didn't have anything else to say, she looked at Ayoub as if asking for his advice. Ayoub said, "I think the idea will work. Please agree, mother. Please, please." Taj sighed. "Fine. Hand me the egg. I'll hide it, and we'll get out of here before the mother returns." Taj took the egg from Ayoub and hid it in the leather pouch she wore around her waist. Then they climbed a nearby tree and hid among its branches. They held their breath and waited to see what would happen. After a while, the mother, the phoenix, arrived and landed at her nest. Since she only had one egg, she quickly noticed its disappearance and began searching around the nest, hoping it had fallen outside for some reason. When she found nothing, she flew into the air, circling and searching from above, but to no avail. Eventually, she returned to her nest, heartbroken. She could do nothing about her loss, so she wept, as some birds do, and slept with her tears hanging from her eyelids. Inside the tree, Taj extended the bottle to Ayoub and whispered to him, "This is your chance." Jumana intervened, "I will go with him too." Her mother objected, fearing for her. You know, he will go alone. She wanted to go because she felt responsible for everything that had happened to Bar, and she believed the risk was hers to take, not Ayoub's or anyone else's. But she knew her mother wouldn't accept that reasoning, so she needed a convincing argument and said, the phoenix's nest is made of branches, some strong, some brittle. Whoever sneaks in must be lightweight, so as not to break the fragile branches underfoot and wake the mother. Ayoub, convinced by the reasoning, said, your daughter is right. Taj knew her daughter wouldn't give up on an idea once it was in her head, so she handed her the bottle and said, be careful, and if the plan is exposed, we'll cancel it and flee. They descended from the tree and crept toward the nest, while Taj stayed behind with the stolen egg inside the tree. When they reached it, Ayoub unbuckled his sword belt from around his waist and fastened it around hers, then whispered to her in a barely audible voice, I hope you won't have to use it. Jumana knew it wasn't the right time, but she voiced what was on her mind. Why did you lie to him? Why didn't you tell him I'm a jinn? He hates jinn. It's better if he doesn't know the truth. Why does he hate us? It's an old story, and there's no time to tell it now, but as I said, he loathes jinn. If he knew your true nature, I'm not sure what he'd do. I'm afraid the sage will tell him. Don't worry, I've asked him not to, and then he added, come on, we must hurry. Without her own strength, Jumana needed help to climb the nest wall, so Ayoub clasped his hands together for her to step on, and she lifted herself up. Once inside, she moved cautiously toward the mother. As she neared, she felt anxious and fearful. The mother's size was almost that of an adult horse, or slightly smaller, which was quite large for a bird. Perhaps that anxiety and fear caused her to lose focus, and she accidentally stepped on a brittle branch, which snapped underfoot, causing the mother to open her eyes. The mother opened her eyes, but when she looked ahead, she saw no one. To the left, she thought she was imagining things, but when she turned toward her egg's location, it was empty. She remembered her loss, and tears welled up in her eyes once more as she returned to sleep. Fortunately, Ayoub quickly lay flat on the ground, so she didn't notice him. It was also fortunate that Jumana hid behind her. If the phoenix had glanced slightly to the right, she would have seen her. Jumana waited a moment to ensure the mother was asleep again, then cautiously approached this time with even greater care. She extended the bottle toward the mother's eye with utmost delicacy and obtained a few drops of her tears. Despite her immense joy, she remained cautious. She quietly walked toward the edge of the nest where Ayoub waited for her, thinking carefully with each step. When she reached the edge, Ayoub extended his hand to help her descend. Everything seemed to go well, but as she was descending, she didn't notice the branch that caught her clothes from behind. As soon as her feet touched the ground, the branch tangled and her clothes bent further than it should have, snapping loudly. The mother woke up again. This time, they had no place to hide. They were exposed to the angry phoenix, who had decided to attack them. Ayoub shouted, give me the sword quickly. The questions were for Jumana about the sword, but the first attack by the phoenix mother was aimed at disarming her enemies. It attacked the sword with its beak and threw it far away. Then it soared into the air with incredible speed and dove toward Jumana first. She was inside the nest, but before it could reach her and harm her, Taj intervened by shouting, is this what you're looking for? The phoenix halted its attack when it saw the egg. I know you're angry, mother. I am a mother like you, and I understand your feelings, Taj continued, adding words supported by sign language. I will return your egg, but on the condition that you let us leave in peace. Naturally, the phoenix didn't understand the words, but its heart felt their meaning. It returned to its nest, as if its peaceful behavior was a sign of agreement with the deal. Taj moved forward, climbing the nest with Ayoub's help, returned the egg to its place, and then they withdrew with Taj saying, Jumana, Ayoub, let's leave this place quickly. The three of them left the spot, and Jumana, of course, made sure to pick up the sword that had fallen from her hand and returned it to its scabbard around her waist. But before they could move too far, the phoenix mother let out a loud, frightening cry, causing all three to turn back in astonishment. When they looked, they saw it coming toward them in anger. Jumana, what's wrong? What's happening? Taj, I'm not sure, but it seems like it's coming to invite us for dinner. You don't know how kind and generous the phoenix birds are. Jumana, realizing the danger, what should we do? Taj, continuing to mock the upcoming disaster, we'll tell her we have another appointment and she will leave us alone. You don't know how understanding and gentle the phoenix birds are. Ayoub, watching the sky and noticing the phoenix birds gathering. I have a terrible plan. Jumana and Taj, in unison, help us with it. Run. There was no chance for them to escape by running. As fast as they were on the ground, the phoenix birds would easily catch them from the air. But the three emperor horses intervened at the right time. Then the chase began. The phoenix birds were faster. Their bodies were smaller than the winged horses, and they could fly lightly without carrying extra weight. Their anger increased their speed, but the three horses of the emperors had a crucial advantage over speed. They had been trained by the emperor family, and having fought many battles, they had better endurance and were skilled in evasive maneuvers. The emperor horses managed to hold their ground in the chase. When they neared the edge of the Phoenix territory, Taj shouted, announcing their possible escape. The Phoenix doesn't leave its land boundaries. We're close to safety. But at that moment, one of the birds managed to attack the horse Arik, which was carrying Jumana. The horse Arik suddenly twisted around itself to evade the attack. During that maneuver, something unexpected happened. Jumana's tear vial fell from her belt. She tried to grab it, but it slipped from her hands and fell towards the ground. They were so close to escaping, but without thinking, Jumana pulled Arik's reins and turned him back. She came to get those tears. Either she would take them back, or she wouldn't return. Taj and Ayoub tried to come to her aid but couldn't, as some phoenix birds formed an aerial barrier to stop them from entering. At that moment, Taj realized there was no hope left for her daughter's life. A deathly army was chasing her, but she rode her horse without considering the consequences. She rushed forward like an arrow, intent on hitting the target, not caring if she shattered afterward. Arik managed to maneuver and hide from their sight for a while, then descended toward the spot where she believed the tear vial had fallen. Jumana searched through the herbs and found what she was looking for, but the vial was shattered and empty. She was about to cry in despair when she heard something that made her postpone her tears for later. She heard the powerful flapping of wings from above. When she looked up, she saw the sky filled with swarms of phoenix birds. The birds circled in the sky in what seemed like a large ring. They were doing this to show the intruders that they were the masters of the land and that no one should challenge the phoenix. Arik neighed and struck the ground with his hooves. The horse wasn't afraid, nor was he asking his mistress to run. He knew the phoenix birds had established complete aerial dominance over the area, and there was no way for him or his rider to escape. Arik was asking his mistress for honor. For the emperor's horses, it was disgraceful to die by the hands of enemies. Their honor was to die by the hands of their masters. Jumana unsheathed the sword tied around her waist, the sword given to her by Ayoub, and delivered a precise strike to Arik's neck to ensure he would die without suffering, whispering to him, "Thank you for your service." Arik fell onto his front hooves, as if bowing to her one last time, and then his body collapsed. Jumana raised her head and looked at the phoenix birds. She knew this was the end, but when a woman is faced with her end, she chooses to face it with courage. The sword was raised toward them, and she shouted, "Come!" The phoenix birds attacked her as if they had responded to her call. Ayoub and Taj were far from her, and Jabbar knew nothing about her involvement. No one among the emperors was around to help her. Death was certain for her, and yet she smiled. She smiled because she saw the one who came to rescue her. Bar had come for her. He was flying above the phoenix birds, riding a strange creature, a beautiful female with the lower half of a horse and the trunk and head of a human, possessing 4 long white wings. She was the princess of the Ashawish tribe, Princess Ashas. Though they arrived when the phoenix birds were halfway toward Jumana, Ashas, by Bar's command, sped up with the swiftness of lightning to rescue her. Princess Ashas flew with them away from there. Bar remained silent the entire time, and Jumana thought his silence was due to his anger at her for disobeying his orders. "So," she asked, intending to open a conversation with him, "how did you know I was in the Phoenix land?" He didn't answer, and her question hung unanswered. Princess Ashas, to spare her the awkwardness, replied, "We met your mother and Ayoub, and they told us about it." Jumana realized, from his ignoring her, that he was angry with her, but after a while, she decided to try again. "Did the wise man come with you?" He ignored her again, and Princess Ashas responded, "Yes, the wise man came with us, but he returned with them to the cave." "Was his meeting with my mother okay?" "No, your mother almost killed him." The dispute started when the wise man mounted behind Taj on her horse and grabbed her in the wrong place. Taj insisted that he did it on purpose, while the wise man said he intended to hold her around the waist, but his hands accidentally moved up slightly and grabbed the wrong spot. A heated argument followed, full of insults, until Ayoub intervened. "Mount behind me, wise man." The reason the wise man didn't mount behind Ayoub from the start was that Ayoub wasn't used to riding winged horses, so he needed to carry someone behind him. The wise man said, "Are you sure we won't fall from the sky? I don't know how to fly. Trust me, wise man. It's better to die from a fall than from Taj's hand." The wise man was convinced by Ayoub's words and mounted behind him. Jumana stopped trying to open a conversation with Bar and remained silent, while Princess Ashas continued to fly them away. She passed over some mountain peaks, causing her body to slightly shake from the air currents. It was a slight disturbance that happened to all flying bodies, but that shaking revealed the truth. Because of it, Bar almost fell off, but Jumana noticed and caught him before he plunged. She realized that his silence silence wasn't from anger at her, but from his severe illness, which had made him nearly unconscious. He had exerted himself greatly by going to the Phoenix land in his fragile state. Jumana shouted, "Take us to the cave. The wise man must see him quickly." That night, in the safe, abandoned cave, after the wise man finished examining Bar, he said in a regretful tone, "There's nothing to be done. He will die." Ayoub intervened. "Do something. Find us a solution. There's no use. Death has spread throughout his body, and it's over. The only solution left is to turn back time and listen to me when I suggested amputating his foot." Jumana cried out, "We go again to the Phoenix land and—" The wise man interrupted, "You won't have time for that. He will die before you even reach halfway there." Ayoub said, "Princess Asha's is fast, and she can shorten the time." Princess Asha's agreed. "You and Bar did us a great favor once that we will never forget. I am ready to serve you and him." For a moment, everyone felt hope, but Taj crushed their spirits with reality. The Phoenix birds are angry now. Entering their land will not be easy, and even if you manage to enter Asha's, the process of bringing back the tears will take a long time. At this point, everyone believed in the inevitable death of Bar. Princess Asha saw no reason to stay, so she approached Ayoub and said with a regretful tone, "I'm sorry for your loss and ours. All the troubles I've faced in life seem trivial compared to this. I wish I had something I could offer him." "Ayoub, you've done all you can. Thank you." Despite the sadness, he maintained his politeness and accompanied the princess out of the cave, then said, bidding her farewell, "Safe travels, princess. You used the 3 tokens we gave you to summon us when needed. Even though you've used them up, we will always serve you, Ayoub, and welcome you among us." She said that and left. Inside the cave, Jumana leaned her head against the wall, reflecting on herself. This would be the second time someone dies because of her. She felt that she wouldn't be able to forgive herself and that she was very bad. At that moment, the wise man approached her. He wanted to lift her from her sadness. He was a kind-hearted man who loved helping others, but like a cactus, whenever he tried to embrace someone, his words unintentionally hurt them with his sharp tongue. He sat beside her, extended his hand, and wiped away her tears. That would have been a good gesture if he had stopped there, but he thought of using his tongue. "What do you think about us getting married? Aren't the troubles I'm in enough? I have a lot of sweet words that will make you forget all your troubles. I can tell you some of them now to prove it." She remained silent, hoping he would leave her alone, but he interpreted her silence as consent and gave her a choice. "Would you prefer the bold compliments or the chaste ones?" "I prefer silence." "Do you have any of that?" "I have silent gestures of love if you want." "Do you prefer the modest ones or the bold ones?" "I want to see you running out of this cave." He almost said something, but she warned him, "Wise man, if you don't leave me alone right now, I'll let others say a fairy killed a man because of his long tongue." "All right, but I want you to understand that if I leave the cave, the marriage proposal is canceled. Then leave quickly." He stood up and, before leaving, said, "I know the timing is not right, but what about the price you promised me?" "It will take some time," she explained. "The book and the gold piece are in the family's safes, and they are guarded by someone." The wise man turned to leave and said, "Be careful that the guards don't see you, or they might chase you. Not even the sea will be able to save you this time." That sentence from the wise man struck her like a flash of lightning in her mind. He had pointed out something very important, so she said, "Wait a moment." The wise man stopped and turned toward her. "I knew you wouldn't miss the opportunity. Tell me, wise man, why would the guards chase me?" "Because you stole their item, and if I return their item, what will happen? They will stop chasing you, and if they find out I tricked them and didn't return the item, they will resume chasing you, and they might inform the rest of the family." "Why?" "Because you're foolish, and your foolishness will make me reconsider you. Answer me, why will they chase me?" He sighed, "Because you stole their item." At that moment, Jumana realized the trick that had happened right in front of her eyes, and she hadn't noticed it. She shouted with joy, "I found the solution." Then she stood up, grabbed him by his clothes, and shouted, "It seems you're starting to like me, wise man." He was about to say something, but she didn't give him the chance and disappeared with him from there. They appeared in the castle, the emperor's castle, specifically in her room. He was accustomed to swift movement, so he didn't feel dizzy this time. He said as he walked deeper into the room, "It seems you, sons of Jinn, don't have a middle ground. Wise man, go to my wardrobe." "The wardrobe?"
Yes.
"Why? I will summon my mother. Will your mother honor us with her presence?" "Wise man, where has your mind wandered? Marriage?" She gave him a sharp look, and he said, afraid, "Where's your wardrobe?" After the wise man entered the wardrobe, Jumana performed the summoning rituals and called for her mother. While waiting for her, the wise man opened the wardrobe door and said, "Can I go to the bathroom? I need to relieve myself." Why didn't you tell me before? Some things come suddenly and aren't planned for. We don't have time. Hold on, I've summoned my mother, and she will be here any moment. As for your mother, I swear I didn't intend to harass her. He was sincere, and she felt his sincerity and said, I believe you. Really? Yes, you just have a long tongue, but you don't do anything. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but thank you for believing me. Then he added, can I express my opinion about your mother without upsetting you? Say it, but quickly. She's an unpleasant woman, and Jumana sensed her mother's arrival, so she ordered the wise man, tell me your opinion about her later. Now go into the wardrobe. She's here. Taj appeared in the room, and the first thing she said was, has Bar died? No. She smiled confidently and sat at the edge of the bed, saying, Ayoub and the wise man shouldn't grieve too much over his death, for they will follow him. What do you mean? I mean they learned too much and must be killed. You only talk about killing and shedding blood. It's the law. But I'm the one who exposed myself to them. What do you mean? I mean, if you want to enforce the law, I'm the guilty one, not them. Taj began to settle the matter with her daughter. Maybe I'll turn a blind eye to Ayoub since he seems capable of keeping the secret, but the wise man is not. He has a long tongue. Then she elaborated, delighting in explaining her plan to kill him. When I take him out, I'll have torn his heart from his chest. I'll stick my hand in his mouth, but don't worry, I'll make it happen quickly so he won't suffer too much. At that moment, a strange scent filled the room, which Taj immediately recognized as ammonia. The wise man, having heard this, was no longer able to control himself. His secret had been exposed, and Jumana could no longer hide it. She said, come out, wise man. Your secret is out. No need to stay hidden. He didn't come out and remained hidden in his place. Jumana went and opened the wardrobe door for him. Here's the translation of the text into English. He said, surprised when he saw her, as if he had run into her by chance in a public place. Imagine, we were just talking about you a moment ago, and I spoke my mind about you honestly. I told her how much you are loved and kind, and what I just heard confirms what I said. I heard you say you would take my heart swiftly so I wouldn't feel pain, which shows how tender and compassionate you are. Taj turned angrily toward her daughter and said, this is the second time an intruder has entered the emperor's fortress. Has our safety become this exposed? Taj struck at him to kill him, but he disappeared from his place before her hand could reach him. When he appeared again after a moment, Jumana was standing in front of him, turning her body into a shield for him. I won't allow you to harm someone I know. Why did you bring him to our castle? This is not your castle. My father kicked you out of it, and you're here now because I allowed you to be. Taj swallowed the insult and rephrased the question. Why is he here? He's here to help me get the Phoenix Tears. The Phoenix Tears? Yes, the Phoenix Tears. What's so surprising? Because I don't understand you. You do understand me very well. Then she threw a question that carried a serious accusation. Why did the Mother Phoenix chase us, even though you gave her the egg? Taj replied coldly, I don't know why. Why don't you go ask her yourself? No need for me to go ask her. I already know the answer. What's going on in your head? You stole her egg. What are you saying? I gave her the egg right in front of you and Ayoub. The sage intervened, trying to gain her favor with a false testimony. Yes, I saw it with my own eyes. Jumana turned to him. Would you like me to leave you with her and go away? No, please. I don't want her to put her hand in my mouth. Then be quiet and don't interfere. You weren't there to see anything. She then turned back to her mother and said, yes, I gave her the egg, and that's why the Mother Phoenix let us leave at first. But then she discovered the trick, and that's why she yelled and informed the other phoenixes about us. What trick are you talking about? Jumana had come to this theory after the sage had said to her, be careful the guards don't see you, or they will follow you. That passing remark made her connect the events and understand why the Mother Phoenix was chasing them. She said, the egg I gave her was empty inside. I stole the chick that was inside it. Impossible. That can't happen. In fact, Jumana herself had no logical explanation to support her theory. That's exactly why she had brought the sage with her. He was the best person to explain the matter and confirm whether it was possible or not. Do you have an explanation for this, sage? The sage took a deep breath and then spoke in a measured tone to explain and analyze the situation from his point of view. Chicks usually die if an external factor interferes with their hatching. Taj exclaimed in a tone of a wronged person. See, I am innocent, but what? Sage of misfortune. Let him continue. Mother, Jumana defended. Go on, sage. But if the hatching time is close, the chick might survive, especially if it's from a strong breed like the phoenix. Taj tried to deflect the accusation from herself. How did the Mother Phoenix fall for the trick at first and not notice? this. The phoenix egg isn't fragile like other birds' eggs. I mean, it's not like a pigeon or sparrow egg. It has a strong shell, which means there could be a small opening at the top or bottom without breaking the egg structure. He understood that Taj wanted to smash his head at that moment, but without paying her any mind, he continued explaining, drawing in the air with his finger to make the idea clearer. All it takes is a semicircular hole like this, through which we can take the chick and then close the hole again. Then, to restore the egg's original weight, we could fill it with dirt or small pebbles. Jumana intervened. Or some leaves. Yes, leaves could work. Then he added, as if underscoring something important. Of course, the egg wouldn't return to its original state, but the night, the mother's excitement, and her happiness about the return of her egg could cause her to overlook it. However, that forgetfulness won't last long, and the mother's instincts will kick in, and she will start turning the egg to check if it's fine, Jumana said. And that's why she initially let us leave in peace. But when she turned her egg, she discovered the truth and yelled at us angrily. A heavy silence filled the room, broken by the sage, who said with a scheming tone, "But this trick, Jumana, could only have been done by someone despicable, a donkey's son, and Taj is not like that at all. Didn't you hear her say earlier that she would tear my heart out quickly so I wouldn't feel the pain?" Jumana approached her mother and pleaded, "Please, mother, if you did steal the chick, just say yes." Another heavy silence filled the room, interrupted once more by the sage, speaking in a scheming tone. "I'm sure Taj didn't do it, Jumana. She's not that vile." Taj gave him an angry, hateful look, and he said, frightened, "I'm the one who stole the chick from inside the egg." Jumana repeated the question, "Did you steal the chick, mother?" Taj replied, "You will take its tears and leave, and don't ask for it to be returned to its mother. Is that understood?" Understood. Most of the houses of Al-Jassasa were made of mud due to the poverty of their inhabitants. These houses were closely clustered together, pressed against each other for security and social reasons, except for one house. It was made of wood and stood far apart from the others, like a punished sibling. The owner had placed a small sign about 3 meters from the doorstep with the following message written in tiny handwriting. If you can read this phrase, it means that you have arrived. You have arrived at your doom. Goodbye. That house belonged to Taj. The three of them entered the house. Taj led them into a room where they saw a wooden birdcage resting on a wooden table. When the wise man and Jumana stepped closer to the cage, they could see inside. A small, joyful bird, the size of a fist. It had thick, soft orange feathers and terrified eyes, like a frightened rabbit, a small hook beak, and thin legs with 5 fragile claws on each foot. It looked cute and beautiful, and anyone who saw it would not believe that such a delicate creature would grow to the size of a horse and become a deadly weapon. "Did you name it?" "Yes, its name is Iklil." The wise man intervened. "The orange feathers would have been more beautiful and expressive." "Shut up, you ill-fated sage," she said, since he was her future wife's uncle. "Yes, aunt." Taj didn't understand why he called her aunt. Otherwise, she might have burned him or made him a mouse and fed him Iklil to eat. Jumana opened the cage door and took out the bird, gently stroking its soft orange feathers like silk, then asked, "How will we collect its tears?" The wise man suggested, "Simple. We will torture it by plucking its feathers, and it will cry." Taj asked, "Don't you have any mercy in your heart, you ill-fated sage?" He replied sarcastically, "What do you think of putting your hand in its mouth and pulling out its heart? Maybe it will cry that way. I'll pull your long tongue out of your mouth and hang you with it." Creative in killing, and I hope your daughter didn't inherit that from you. Taj approached the bird and gently tapped its head. Not a strong blow, but for a bird of its age, it had a great impact on its psyche. It cried and looked at its mistress, as if questioning the sin it had committed to deserve such a blow. Taj took a glass vial from one of her drawers, filled it with the bird's tears, and handed it to her daughter. In the abandoned cave, the wise man prepared a medicinal mixture made from the phoenix's tears and some rare herbs known for their healing abilities. Once the medicine was ready, he said, "This liquid must go directly into its blood." Ayoub asked, "How will you do that?" With this, the wise man held something delicate between his thumb and index finger. Ayoub asked, "Is this a fishbone?" "It's a spine from a sea creature called Zumar albar by fishermen. I bought it a long time ago in preparation for such situations." This idea was strange to both Jumana and Ayoub, who had never heard of anything like it. The wise man explained what he had in mind. "The uniqueness of this spine is that it is hollow, and it can be used as a tunnel through which the medicine can pass directly into the blood." Jumana asked, "Is this a tried method, or will we end up in a bigger mess?" "Don't worry. You're sure about what you're doing?" "No, but it's the only only solution. The wise man injected the fish spine into one of the prominent veins of the sea creature's arm and began slowly passing the medicine, drop by drop, into its bloodstream. He continued until he was sure all the medicine had entered its body. Now, we've exhausted the solutions of the earth, and now we await the blessings of the heavens. Ayoub went next to the cave, just like before, and collected some dry branches. He returned to start a fire for warmth. The three of them gathered around the fire. The exhaustion from their adventure settled over them, and they all fell asleep except for Jumana, who stayed awake, staring at Bahir, lying on a pile of straw, waiting for a miracle. As she stared at him, she admitted to herself that a large part of her felt strangely drawn to him. He was the first man to resemble her father in so many ways, and even when near him, she felt the same safety she felt near her father. It was an inexplicable feeling. This young man was one of the leaders of the Jatham, the greatest enemy of her family, and it made no sense that she would feel safe around him. She told herself, maybe he will kill me if he knows I am from the emperors. But something within her whispered, Bahir won't harm you. As she continued to stare at him, she noticed something important. His face seemed familiar, as though she had met him in another time. She shook her head forcefully, as if trying to drive the thoughts away. She told herself, this attraction to him is nothing but a false feeling for someone who sacrificed his life to save me. The truth I can trust is that Bahir is just a stranger I met a few days ago, and once he recovers from his illness, we will each go our separate ways. Though she seemed calm, anxiety churned inside her, kicking like a baby inside a mother's womb. She felt haunted by two women, one who wanted him and the other who wanted to escape from him. And while she was like that, she drifted into sleep. When she opened her eyes shortly after, she found herself covered with a large shirt. When she looked ahead, she saw that he had awakened and regained consciousness. He was shirtless and looking at her. She felt joy to see him well. She was about to wake everyone up to tell them of his safety, but she couldn't speak, as though his gaze had sealed her mouth. She said, take your eyes off me. He closed his eyes, not understanding the reason for her request, but the pressure inside her urged her to stay silent and continue staring at him. When he opened his eyes again, he saw his shirt lying on the ground. Jumana had left Jasmine. He didn't understand the reason for her departure, but he wore his shirt still soaked with her scent, a scent that stirred him from his place. He found himself able to use his injured foot. To be more certain of its healing, he jumped on it several times and realized that it had fully healed. He walked towards the pile of burning firewood. Ayoub was sleeping comfortably, but the wise man slept cross-legged with his neck tilted backward, his face facing the ceiling as though, when he slept, he was waiting for a revelation from the sky. Bahir adjusted his head and wiped the dust from his face, the dust that fell on him from the cave's ceiling, and then, in a subconscious act, the wise man kissed his hands and murmured, saying, your hands are soft. When we marry, I will cut them off and make a pillow from them. May the heavens aid the poor soul who gets tangled up with you. Bahir decided to leave the cave to breathe some fresh air. When he stepped outside, he found her standing before him, Jumana. He smiled at her spontaneously and said, I thought you had left. As for her, she didn't return his smile but instead showed a hostile demeanor. She was like a cat in mating season. I stood by your side because you helped me, nothing more. Now that I've healed, we are even. Each of us will go our separate way. She was contradictory and didn't know exactly what she wanted. At that moment, she wished he would hold on to her and ask her to stay, but at the same time, she wanted him to let her go. Bahir was able to read her hesitation, so he said, I'll give you some time to think. I don't want to think. Are you sure about this agreement? Yes, I'm sure. And what exactly is the agreement? It's that we return to being strangers. I don't know you, and you don't know me, and neither of us cares about the other. All right, as you wish. She turned and left, but at that moment, Bahir fell to his knee, groaning in pain. Jumana came back to check on him. What's wrong? What happened to you? He remained silent for a while, not answering, then suddenly smiled and got back on his feet as if nothing had happened, saying, nothing. I just wanted to check how committed you are to the agreement. She felt the anger of someone who had been defeated, murmuring as she turned to leave again. Ugh, wait, come here. What did you say? Nothing. I heard you. You said, stupid. Why ask if you heard it? A cold smile spread across his face as he said, I just wanted to make sure how brave you are. She stormed off in anger. He stood, watching her walk away, laughing to himself. Bahir then heard footsteps behind him. He turned around, and his eyes met those of his friend Ayoub. Both seemed happy to see each other. After a moment, Ayoub said, I saw the world without you, Bayer, and it was really ugly. It's the curse of life, my friend. No matter how long we are together, one day we will part, then let's stay in it as long as possible. The two friends hugged. Soon, the wise man came over and squeezed himself between them. He was happy that everything had ended well. The hug lasted until the wise man, nearly out of breath, said, if this hug doesn't end now, history will write that the wise man died from suffocation.